A penciled checkmark beside a tiny square in a pocket notebook. One quiet stroke, and your chest finally loosens. Most of us think burnout fades only after a vacation or a dramatic life overhaul, but the brain comes sooner and more reliably when it sees small, undeniable progress it can't argue with. Imagine a night shift at a Toyota plant in the 1970s. The line hums, the air tastes like metal, and a worker notices that a wrench lies half an arm's reach too far. He nudges the tray a few inches closer, pulls a cord to signal a change, and the next hour runs smoother than the last. That move didn't make headlines. It shaved seconds, not hours, but it lit up something crucial, an inner meter that whispers, you are not stuck. The Japanese call this Kaizen, continuous improvement by tiny, ongoing changes. It wasn't born as a self-help slogan. It was a survival tactic in a crowded, resource-tight post-war factory world where no single big fix existed. You adjust placement, posture, sequence, timing. You meet, reflect, hansei, and ask, what is the smallest true improvement? That culture turned microscopic wins into a system. The surprise is that your nervous system runs on the same fuel. Because like what keeps burnout alive isn't only workload, it's the story your brain keeps telling. Like nothing I do matters. Big goals accidentally feed that story. They live far away. They slip. They delay reward. Your brain, built to balance energy and risk, reads delay as danger. So you grind harder, feel less progress, and the story tightens until every undone task becomes a quiet humiliation. Here's the pivot. Your brain doesn't need a trophy, it needs evidence. A small win is evidence that the world moved because of you. Teresa Amabile and Stephen Kramer spent years collecting daily work diaries and found a simple pattern. On days when people recorded even minor progress, their emotions and motivation spiked. On days of stealth work, they plummeted. The progress itself could be tiny, draft a paragraph, fix a bug, clear a naughty email, but it punched far above its weight in how people felt. Emotion didn't wait for launch day. It listened to the next visible step. Visible? Why? Because of prediction. Dopamine isn't just a pleasure chemical, it tracks better than expected outcomes. When something slightly exceeds forecast, quicker, easier, a touch more elegant, dopamine neurons fire and your brain updates. Try that again. The again part is what matters. Tiny wins create a cadence of better than expected moments, so behavior repeats with less willpower each time. It's reinforcement learning in office clothes. You can almost feel this shift in your body. Start a task with the whole mountain in your head, and your shoulders rise, your breath gets shallow, and you procrastinate while calling it planning. Now give yourself a micro target you can't miss. Open the document, rename it, write 3 messy lines, and watch the temperature drop. The mountain doesn't shrink. Your relationship to it changes because you taught your nervous system. Movement exists here. There's another stranger twist. Tiny wins don't just build habits, they rewrite identity forecasts. Think of identity as your brain's shortcut, what future you is likely to do. Every small success is a data point that shifts the curve. 1 page a day predicts a writer more strongly than a 30-day outline with flawless color coding. A 10-minute walk after dinner predicts an active person more honestly than a weekend of guilt-powered CrossFit. Your brain is Bayesian about you. Feed it evidence, or not speeches. Japan framed this evidence with ritual. Kaizen meetings were brief, regular, and concrete. One change, try it now, reflect today. The mood wasn't fireworks, it was notice, nudge, note. In a kitchen, they might be moving the salt to eye level because your hand hesitated yesterday. In a studio, it might be laying out tomorrow's first brush and canvas before you sleep. In a spreadsheet life, it might be a template that removes the decision about formatting so your brain spends friction on meaning, not margins. If you're thinking, fine, but my burnout isn't a factory, it's a wildfire. Understand this. Burnout has an official shape. The World Health Organization classifies it as an occupational phenomenon tied to chronic workplace stress not successfully managed. 3 features show up: exhaustion, mental distance or cynicism, and reduced efficacy. Micro victories touch the third first. That's their secret entrance. you feel effective again before you feel rested again. And oddly, that early flicker of efficacy makes rest safer to take because the story of I'm failing stops screaming every time you pause. Still, most of us sabotage micro wins by making them conditional on mood. We wait for motivation to start, but motivation is a lagging indicator. It follows action. Stanford's BJ Fogg mapped this simply. If a behavior is tiny enough and a prompt is clear enough, you don't need much motivation at all. That's why flossing one tooth builds a nightly ritual more reliably than aiming for the whole mouth. The absurdly small goal sidesteps the brain's energy alarm. And once you're holding the floss, you usually keep going anyway. There's data on how small things become automatic. In one study of real-world habit formation, people who repeated a simple behavior in the same context each day, like drinking a glass of water after breakfast, saw the action become nearly automatic over weeks. The curve wasn't instant, it was a slow upward glide. Missing a day didn't wreck it. Consistency beat intensity because the brain was rehearsing a link. After this cue, do this act and feel this reward. So how do you turn this into a lived habit instead of a nice idea? Start by making the next step embarrassingly clear and embarrassingly small. Replace write the report with open the report template and write a terrible title. Replace get in shape with put on shoes and step outside for 8 minutes. Replace fix my finances with move $5 to savings every day at 9 a.m. The trick is not the number, it's the metronome. Daily, visible, finishable. Next, design your prompt. Japanese Kaizen thrives on environment design, tools within reach, signals visible, waste removed. Your room can run Kaizen on you. Lay out the book on the pillow so you read 2 pages before sleep. Put the guitar on a stand, not in a case. Draft the morning's first sentence on a sticky note stuck to your laptop lid. Build a runway shorter than your mood. Then, manufacture feedback. A checkbox is primitive, which is why it works. The mark is binary. You did or you didn't. Diaries of progress work the same way. Teresa, Amabile's diaries weren't pep talks, they were logs. And when you log even absurdly small progress, your brain gets a replay reel. It can distort. Yesterday wasn't failure, it was one paragraph at 8:13 p.m. under a bad lamp, which still counts. Notice that none of this requires inspiration. That's the uncomfortable marvel. We romanticize breakthroughs because they look good in biographies, but for most people, the machinery of change is dull and mechanical by design. That's not a flaw, it's protection. When your life gets stormy, machinery survives weather better than willpower. You can be tired and still move a tray 2 inches. You can be discouraged and still rename a file. You can be anyone and still check a box. You might ask, doesn't this shrink my ambition? No. It rescues it. Big goals are only achievable if they're digestible. Kaizen never said, don't dream. It said, don't make the dream your daily unit. The daily unit is a lever you can move with the strength you have at 7:40 a.m. on a Wednesday, when the coffee is weak and your inbox is rude. Win there and your dream stops being a poster. It becomes a path. And there's one more turn. Micro victories soften shame. Burnout often rides with self-reproach. I should be better. But a small win reframes character as practice rather than verdict. You aren't lazy, you build a 10-minute loop. You aren't not a reader. You finished 2 pages 18 nights in a row. The facts of your week contradict the insult. You don't need to believe in yourself before you act. You act and your beliefs catch up, one notch at a time. Try noticing what you already do well at microscale. Maybe you always wash the pan right after eggs so it never crusts. That's Kaizen. Maybe you stack tomorrow's outfit on the chair. Kaizen. Maybe you set your keys in the same bowl so mornings don't become detective work. Kaizen again. Name these out loud. Your brain loves categories. When you recognize the pattern, you can replicate it elsewhere. When the day floods, pull back to the smallest true step. True means it moves the work, not symbolic busy work, not organize the organizing system. One sentence in the doc is true. One email to unblock a teammate is true. One phone call you have avoided is true. Spend your last good minutes there, you'll finish the day tired but utterly intact because you tipped the inner meter toward efficacy instead of futility. At Toyota, after a change, teams pause for Hensei reflection, not to celebrate but to ask, What did we learn and where did waste hide? You can steal that posture at home. 2 minutes, end of day, pen in hand. What tiny change shaped friction today and how can I make it default? You're not performing. You're gardening. You prune. You clear. You rearrange light. Burnout tells you you're trapped inside a life-size problem. Micro victories prove that the door is a series of hinges. One moved yesterday, another moves today. And the strange, beautiful thing is that other people can feel it. Progress is contagious. Your calm spreads. Your standards spread. Your viable pace becomes an invitation instead of a private rescue. So tomorrow morning, don't ask your brain for courage, ask it for evidence, make a box and earn a check, slide the wrench, move the salt, write a bad title, and leave the door open for a future where relief isn't a vacation you can't schedule, but a rhythm you can hold in your hands. Because maybe the opposite of burnout isn't rest or even balance. Maybe it's that quiet, stubborn feeling that something, however small, got better because you were here, and that tomorrow it can again.